you could join us today. I'm sorry, thank you. I should have told you, Jackie. I'm glad that you're all here today. Most of you know me. My name is Breezy Gutierrez. I work with CCRB. I'm the Region I coach for this area. We've been in contact throughout the year, and CLNA, we've been talking about it. Now it's here, and let's see what we could do to get some work done. I want to also let Denise Ojeda and Melissa De Laurentiis introduce themselves. They'll be assisting me with this area and this presentation. Melissa will be taking over for me. I'll be handing off this region to her, so let them go ahead and introduce themselves to you too as well.
Okay, I'm Denise Ojeda. I'm the Region C coach, and Breezy and I have been working together with all this, and I'm also the skilled trades subject matter expert for CCRB. Nice seeing you again.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melissa De Laurentiis. As Breezy said, I am new to CCRB and will be transitioning to Region I and continuing the amazing support that Breezy has been providing you through this process. I look forward to working with you.
All right, thank you. Although this is a formal meeting, it's a required every 2 years by law. I just put together some group norms here. I'm just asking, like, it's informal. We all know each other here. I think we're pretty comfortable with each other. I'm just asking that we, stay engaged in the process, experience some discomfort. It's okay. That's what happens in the learning process. Be flexible and adaptable. I know I have a plan, but it can go either way that we want it, that we need it to be, to address the things that we need to address. Speak your truth. Be willing to share your experiences. Don't be afraid. That's what we're here to do. We're here to collaborate with each other. And then expect and accept the lack of closure. We're going to try to get some things done. I have some goals here, but accept that it's going to be an ongoing process, and that we might have to, we are going to probably have some additional meetings to get some stuff done. Okay. And it's in order to, improve the quality of our programs and our application and so forth, we're going to have those additional meetings. So who is or should be here in these CLNA meetings? I have a list here. We're really pushing that. I see a lot of administrators signed up. I see some industry partners, getting other people involved, our parents, our students, additional industry partners is really important for them to have a voice in the type of programs that we are giving our students the opportunity in, and contributing to that workforce development as well. So why are we here? This little top portion, I came up with this. So my idea is that we're here to collaborate with each other in order to complete a quality application that aligns with and builds a strong program of study for all of your schools and all of the districts. I put some information from Perkins. The CLNA is required by law. We don't like to be told that we have to do it, right? So that, the collaboration portion is there. In order to receive funding, our programs must be aligned with the labor market information as indicated in the Comprehensive Local Needs Assessment, also known as the CLNA. And it has to be done every 2 years. So what I have here is a basic agenda. So after this presentation of the agenda, you're going to go into a breakout session and you're going to introduce yourselves in the breakout session. You're going to also answer an additional question about, what you expect to get out of this meeting. We're going to go over the goals that I've set as a result of receiving the pre-planning document from some of the schools, as well as the initial conversations that we did have beforehand. The elements to submitting a quality application, the regional priorities that are set and what we need to go over. Explore the programs of study will be another breakout session. And then set a collective goal for program improvement. So does anyone have any questions so far as to the intent of the meeting? Any clarifying questions that you need before we go into our breakout session? And you can unmute yourself, or you can post it in the chat. And I'll give you a couple of seconds to determine if you want to press enter or not. So before we go into our breakout session, what I'm asking is that you rename yourself in the participant list. So in the participant list, if you would put your name, what institution you are and what you represent. So if it's Melissa Wynn, I'm going to use you as an example. She's going to put Melissa Wynn, Clovis, and then she's going to put education or administrator or something like that. And then if you could too, also, if you would drop your name in the chat for attendance purposes, so we can keep a running log of who was present at this meeting. So 2 things: rename yourself in the chat, and then again, drop your name into the chat. And we have a couple more people that are jumping on. Melissa or Denise, could you make sure that after they jump on, if you can remind them to name themselves in the chat and drop their name in the chat too as well? So we may or may not know each other. I mean, being in a small region in that area, usually we do have interactions with each other. But during this time, no more, between 5 and 10 minutes in your breakout rooms, you're going to take a few minutes to introduce yourself, what section you represent, what your intentions are, why you're here. And then in the Padlet that Melissa will be dropping into the chat, if you click on the Padlet, there's a question on there, number 3, what would you like to learn from or contribute to this meeting? If you could record your responses in there. I'm asking that when you go into your breakout session, if somebody could share their screen to show the Padlet so that we see the responses that are being submitted into the Padlet. And myself, Melissa, and Denise will be jumping from room to room to assist you with anything that you need assistance with. And so I just want to get a general feeling of, what your goal is for this meeting too as well. And so, Jackie, if you could go ahead and start your magic with putting people into some breakout sessions. Do we need any clarification on the instructions? So again, I'll just reiterate that you'll go into your breakout rooms, kind of have a discussion about who you are, where you're from, what you do, and then what you would like to learn from or contribute to this meeting today. And then you will record your response on the Padlet.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Breezy, I will go ahead and open up the rooms.
Okay. If nobody has any clarifying questions, I don't see anything put about in the chat. Nothing. Okay, so I'll go ahead and send you to your breakout rooms. And we'll see you back here in a few minutes. And
Mr. Salver, do you need help getting into your breakout room? You should have received a pop-up. Oh, there you go.
okay, we'll just, excuse me, we'll just wait for the remaining participants to, are we all back from the breakout session, Jackie, yet? Or we still got a few people?
Everybody's back.
All right, well, thank you. I heard some awesome conversations going on in there. So Melissa, is there any additional information not pertaining to our goals that you saw in the Padlet?
So in reviewing the Padlet and the wonderful feedback that was added by everyone, as you're looking through, I was struck by similarities and alignment to priorities, which I think is really good. There were a lot of conversations focused on being industry driven and really listening to industries within the region and how we bridge some of the gaps that we see there. There were also a lot of conversations about really looking at our pathways, starting at middle school with kind of career exploration, moving up through the post-secondary and making sure that we have a lot of alignment going on there. So I think everything that was listed in there will be addressed in some way throughout today's meeting. And if there is any part of what we would like to learn from this meeting that we do not get to today, we will make sure that we have follow-up conversations on those items.
Can't tell. I was like, I couldn't tell if I was on mute or not. Thank you so much for that, Melissa. And just to reiterate what she said there, yes, that we will be going through some of these things that you addressed in the Padlet, and what we don't get to today, yeah, we will eventually get to in some meeting later on. So our goals from the pre-planning documents that I received from some of the schools and the initial meetings that we had, I think our main goals for this session is to determine the regional funding priorities. Are we going to stick with agriculture, information technology, or manufacturing? Those are our three priorities. Right now, I see that we have a lot of programs really focusing on the ag. Are we going to add any information technology? We also have manufacturing in the form of welding. So we need to set those priorities and that collective goal. Building a strong and high quality application. So in order to build that strong and high quality application, we need to really determine what programs of study we are going to implement using the Perkins funding, and then determine what programs of studies to implement as part of the consortium and or individual schools. So who I see today is everyone that is basically part of the consortium, and those that aren't part of the consortium, are you going to be part of the consortium, or are you going to, individually focus on your programs of study? And so what we look at when what is needed for a high quality application. So these are the elements that were included on that pre-planning document. In order to consider what that quality application needs to look like, we need to look at what is the priority alignment evaluation. How are we evaluating our programs to make sure we are implementing that right program of study? What's our program size, scope, and quality? How many students do we have in here? How much money are we spending on it for the amount of students that we have? Our student performance evaluation. Are our students obtaining certifications? Are they concentrators? Are they completers? Access and equity evaluation. Are all our students in our region getting equal access to these programs in career and technical education? Educator training, recruitment, and retention. How are we providing our students with a high quality CTE teacher? What are we doing to keep our teachers teaching? And we know that our CTE teachers are really passionate about their programs of study. So what are we doing to support them? And then the program implementation and completion. Again, what certifications are our students receiving, and are they completing the programs of study? So the importance of the CLNA, conducting a thorough review addresses how we understand this the CLNA. And I just went over those elements, and I just put the graphic in, so there might be a more, in-depth understanding of how the comprehensive local needs assessment is used to determine what those priorities are. We look at student performance, equity. The labor market information guide was also given to you beforehand as well, as to what the job growth in the workforce in the region, what it is right now. And that changes from, we get updates all the time. So it can change from, day to day. Our programs of study and the recruitment of our teachers. And so just some changes from Perkins 4 to 5 when we think about our quality application. These comprehensive local needs assessment requires that we have more input from a diverse group of stakeholders, getting more industry partners involved, getting parents, students, that list of people who should be here. If we get more of them involved in the process, we're going to get a variety and an array of information as to things that they can bring to the table. Another change, educators, you can use your Perkins 5 funding for professional development. Also, I just want to reiterate that there's Title II monies out there too for professional development for your teachers. Title II funding can be used in lieu of your Perkins funding. So your Perkins funding can be used for equipment and supplies and so many other things. And your Title II money can be used for professional development for your teachers. There's so much, we were informed that there's a lot of Title II money that gets reverted back to the state because it doesn't get used. So I just want to remind you about that. To be considered a CTE concentrator, a student must complete 2 courses in a single program of study. So that has also changed too. And it has to be an approved sequence. We have our career clusters guide with those approved sequences and those approved programs of study. Programs of study must culminate in an industry certification or some sort of post-secondary credential for higher education. It's also huge focus on employability skills, which includes work-based learning on the job training, and then a strong emphasis on those work-based learning opportunities. Does anyone have any questions about the new guidelines for Perkins 5? Okay, I was in a presentation and I really, we have a push for career technical education. I was a CTE teacher and I was really passionate about career technical education And my argument was always, it's not either CTE or academics, they're all combined as both. And so this visual gave a better representation because we have, I know I've had some conversations, people were like, oh, our kids are either CTE or they're academic, and that's not necessarily true with this. Vocational education used to be, okay, it's for a few students, few jobs. Instead of the academic track, you're gonna go this track. And we're kind of pitting secondary versus post-secondary. But as we see the changes in CTE, we know that, you know, all means all. So for all students, all careers, there's a variety of pathways that are that kids can choose from or that schools can implement. CTE aligns and supports academics. It's not separate from academics. And then we want to create those pipelines by creating relationships between secondary and post-secondary institutions. So I like this quote from Walt Disney: the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. I was always one of those teachers that I'm like, when do we get started? When can we start? So during the year, some industry partners, what we did was we noticed that throughout all the regions, there was some similarities in the programs of study that regions identified and adopted. And so we looked at skilled trades, computer science, IT, and health. Those were all consistent amongst all the regions. And so what CCRB did is we held statewide industry meetings because we kind of didn't want to make industry partners go to 10 different meetings. So we said, let's host one hub of information, you know, a general information meeting so that we can determine what those industry needs are. And Denise will give you a little synopsis of how those meetings were held and what we did and what came out of them.
Thanks, Breezy. Fortunately for all of us, the people that were conducting these meetings are represented here. So if you have additional questions or want more depth, they're represented here. Starting with skilled trades, I did that meeting with lots of help from my team. And basically what came out of that was a strong need for employability skills. Industry seemed to say, hey, we just need qualified applicants to come in with the willingness to work, the ability to understand what it's like to be in a job situation, that they could provide the training. There's other concerns about getting that training. In addition to, it's like, okay, the mind is right. They're willing to accept what it's like to be on a job site, but do they have any tangible skills? So they mentioned things like first aid, OSHA classes, specific electrical, carpentry, welding certifications that they would really appreciate as they're hiring. When you're talking about skilled trades, we're talking about drafting, manufacturing, construction trades, transportation, and welding. So they're pretty much all represented there. And one of the things that I wanted to say about some of the concerns were there's a willingness to reach out to schools, but there are also, back to Breezy's previous slides, talking about vocational versus CTE education, the stigmas that go with it, concerned about, you know, it's not an either or. To reemphasize what Breezy was talking about, it's like we need qualified people that have this basic foundational training. On to CSIT, they made a little more specific requests, some talking about cyber and software security systems, cloud computing, cloud architecture, network administration, career readiness, and the commitment, again, back to the employability skills. And they really stress having that foundational general knowledge that students could go to any of these occupations, but they have a strong foundation to begin with. And so that was their main concern. And on to health. Health workers are really busy, essential workers and all. So a survey was done. And basically what was said was that they have a need for qualified applicants that they're not getting, and that people are there looking, health science is looking to outside our state to find qualified applicants to bring in and fill in those ranks. All in all three industry for all these three meetings and surveys agreed that employability skills, lack of qualified applicants, and basically having that general attitude or getting students ready that they're willing to participate and really engage in their education to do these things or to pursue. All of them also said a willingness to, they're willing to come in for career fairs, job exploration, guest speakers. They're willing to reach out, and they all three said, hey, if educators would reach out to us, they'd be more than willing to come into the classrooms. And I think that's about it, Reezy.
Thank you, Denise. And so at the end of the presentation too, as well, we have the links to these statewide industry meetings. So we have a summary done in writing, and we also have a video of the meeting as well as the breakout sessions where those conversations took place. And so industry partners in the room, you know, are these some of the, you know, some of the things that did we hit it on the nail with what needs to be focused on in the workforce? And I think we've got like Sarah, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Sarah, Stephen, does this really align with what you are looking for within your business areas?
Sarah and I are playing mute tag. At least as far as computer science and IT, I do think it was right on the money.
I agree.
Okay. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say, I agree with Steve. That's where we're looking at mostly. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you.
Breezy, I can say that in our fall meeting, the soft skills was definitely the #1 problem that most of the industry felt like they had, and that people didn't know how to interview or the responsibilities of jobs and things like that. So I do think that's spot on.
Okay, thank you. Which brings us to our next slide. It's like, how do we address these? And I know that the commonality across all the advisory meetings that we attended with Pam, the statewide industry meetings that we had, it was employability skills, those soft skills. So I just put some resources on here as to what CCRB is doing to help you combat that, you know, frustration. So we look at, you know, career technical student organizations, schools establish them, and student participation in CTSO chapters, creating CTSOs that relate to the programs of studies that you are implementing in your schools. There are some great opportunities for students to gain those employability skills, from competitions to service learning projects, to other initiatives that each of the CTSOs establish each year. Advisory committees, Pam, that was a great fall meeting that you put together. Collaboration between stakeholders year long. You know, there's a minimum of 2 that needs to be completed, but if you need more to get those done, that's always an option too as well. Career fairs. So we have a variety of career fairs that happen across the state. Christine Phipps with CTLP put together a career fair earlier this year. So, you know, getting our kids signed up for those type of events can help combat those employability skills issues. Work-based learning. I know there's some reservations about work-based learning and how we work together to establish work-based learning opportunities on the job training, but those are great opportunities for students to start learning those employability skills. And, you know, industry partners, I know that we did hear a lot from industry partners in those statewide meetings saying, this is how I can help. I have multiple internships that I can offer students. And so just having those opportunities and those high quality skill development events will really help our students enter the workforce. So looking at CTSOs, I see a lot of positive things going on in Region I. We've got, BPA going on. We've got DECA, Ed Rising, FCCLA, FFA, and HOSA. No Skills USA or TSA out there, but those, hopefully that's in the making later on. But it just depends on, what programs of study that you're implementing in your schools, if those programs of study align to the type of competitions and events that students are doing in the classroom that can be relayed on to these CTSOs. And so looking at the priorities for Region I, back in 2020, it was determined in a CLNA meeting just like this as to what the priorities for the whole region would be. And so whoever was there at the time, the group decided that agriculture, manufacturing, and information technology were the top priorities in the region. And so here are some, what I did was I pulled from our career clusters guide, the program of study names that are in each category. So here in agriculture, we have 10 different programs of study that are recommended. Manufacturing, 6. And then information technology, we have 7 programs of study available for schools to implement. And this is what it looks like in the career clusters guide that some of you have, I'm like, I don't know if you can see but some of you have gotten the career clusters guide from us. And if you haven't, when I get out there, I'll get you a copy of that. But we also have an updated Excel file that you will be going over during the next breakout session. So when I went through the pre-planning document and met with you prior to this meeting, we went over the programs of study that were in the initial application. And so what I got from the pre-planning document and the data that I pulled for the last few years was that we really needed to focus on what programs of study the schools are going to implement. So that's one of our main goals in this session today. So looking at Region I in the application, it was stated that the schools were going to focus on agriculture engineering case program. They were going to focus on power structural and technical systems, and they were going to focus on manufacturing, specifically with welding. And so when the data was pulled, it showed that there were no students that were enrolled in the agricultural engineering case program of study, but most of the students were in power structural and technical systems, which is also known as ag mechanics, which also includes welding. And then some of the students were also in the manufacturing welding program of study. And so what I also did was I also pulled other course enrollments in the region. And I found that there were some of these course codes aligned to the power structural and technical systems, as well as the agricultural portion of some of those programs of study. And so if there's an asterisk on here that says, you know, that's part of a program of study, but the issue that comes with that is the fact that this is the whole region. This isn't just an individual school. So there are these courses that are being taken by students, but not in a sequence. They're not taken in a program of study sequence. So they're not counted towards that concentrator or completer status that Perkins 5 is really focusing on. So I just wanted to give you a general idea of the types of classes that are being offered to these students in CTE. And so what I see, and I think the rest of you see, I'm not trying to guide you to anything specific, but I see a lot of agriculture classes, which I think there's a huge push for that in that area. And so looking at the pipeline for that, so keeping in mind when determining what program of study you know, we're going to come into an agreement upon as to what you're going to submit in your application, because that's one of our goals, determining what program of study. And I know that a lot of people have their own ideas of it and, you know, about what program of study it should be, but coming to a general consensus as to what program of study to implement, you know, focusing on one or two to start with. And then, you know, once those programs are, you know, set and there's implementation and things are going well, then we can continue to try to add more programs of study. But looking at the pipeline, what we want to do is, you know, create that structure and sequence, vertical and horizontal alignment, that students can continue their path when they leave their secondary school. And so looking at the programs available in the priorities, we're looking at Clovis Community College has computer information systems with an array of degrees, associate degrees, as well as certifications. Their welding certification and degree. And then Pam, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just want to, if you could give like a little synopsis of what's coming soon in 2024 in a, pertaining to the agribusiness degree.
Yes, and Robin, you can jump in anytime. We're in the process, we developed an animal science and plant science curriculum for classes last year, and we're building 2 this year, which will be leadership and is it communications or is it business?
Ag econ.
Econ, okay, this year. And so our whole goal is to have a program by 24-25. Is that correct, Robin?
No, we should have this in place a lot sooner than that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in 2022, we should have that degree piece of it. Right now, it's just building that HED requires that 2+2 component. So we're working on that piece of it, but it'll happen well before 2024.
Okay, so our whole goal is to have that in place, and then so that students can complete an associate's here and then feed in to a 4-year after that.
Okay, good information to know. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Robin.
Breezy, can I ask a quick question about some of the pathways and you, I don't know if this is an option, but and Dr. Wu could probably clarify, but unless they've gotten rid of it, they have a Bachelor of Applied Science for kind of the career technical side of it. And so that our welding, our Associate of Applied Science in Welding feeds right into that. Is Dr. Wu, is that still accurate?
Yes, I think so, but I have to check it again.
Okay.
Okay.
But would that still be a viable pathway for what we're looking for? I just think it's important to be able to show that 2+2 if that is available.
I think
Okay.
so.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Wu. If you could check into that for us too, that's good information to know and to add to those possibilities with that pipeline. Thank you. Okay, so performance indicators, I just want to remind you those things that we look at to those performance indicators that we look at to evaluate the programs, dual credit, work-based learning, certifications, and concentrator/completer status. And so all of these program of study, the priorities, the performance indicators, all of this information, hopefully it can help you and assist you in your groups to determine, you know, what program of study we're really going to focus on and implement in the next application cycle, to what we're going to use our Perkins funding for, what opportunities we're going to offer students. I thought this was, if you hadn't received this press release, I thought it was a very, very interesting article as to the research that was being done with LANL. And they came up with a report, and you know, this push and marketing of career technical education, 3 important factors that they recommended as to how schools and districts can pursue a high quality career pathway for students. Number 1, it says CTE should be incorporated into your core academics. And that was one of the in that chart that I showed you, it was, you know, instead of in lieu of academics, it's incorporated into academics. Every student must have access to work-based learning through internships and apprenticeships. So, you know, we're really focusing on and relying on business industry to assist us in that process. And then every student must receive personalized support with attention to college and career advising. And I do want to point out that Clovis Community College has started that process and tried to implement that through the hiring of their career coaches, but there have been some hiccups in the process. But you know, it's a really, I think, because of COVID and all of these other things, not being school shutting down, not being allowed to go into the schools and so forth, I think it's still a great plan as to how to utilize those career coaches to assist the region and the counselors and the administrators with that career development. And so in the next breakout session, what we have is there is a document that has all the programs of study in it. It starts with agriculture. That's a good thing. Information technology is under information technology, so you'll have to scroll down or search for information technology. And then manufacturing is under manufacturing, and so those programs of study are all there. So there's a list of all the approved and recommended programs of study for the region. And then there's also an additional document that's going to be supportive of that. So if you don't know what a class entails or what's taught in that class, we have also the course descriptions of all the classes. And so in your groups, what I would like is some feedback and discussions as to what programs of study are going to best fit your student, best align with industry in the area, the school, and the regional needs, and then record that on the Padlet. So there's some guiding questions on the Padlet to assist you in this process. So what jobs in your priority sector are most relevant to the community today and tomorrow? When you are trying to choose that program of study that's really going to benefit the region, think about these questions. Which CT program of study would best provide the pathway for students to fill the jobs that are open in the region? Do the CTE program of studies align with post-secondary where applicable and appropriate? So that's why I showed you the slide about the pipelines. Are they able to continue that process when they leave our high schools? What work-based learning, internships, apprenticeships, opportunities are available? So industry partners that are here, what do you have available in those areas that can assist with the process? And then thinking about our advisory committees from this point forward, how we can utilize those to continue with the process of evaluating our high quality CTE programs. So Melissa's going to drop the, and I think she already did, she dropped the links in the chat. And so the links in the chat, the first one is the career clusters approved programs of study. And then the second one is course codes. So the descriptions of those, you'll have to scroll through them to find, you'll have to scroll to, let me see if I can, let me stop share and I'm going to show you it really quick.
While you're pulling that up, Breezy, I just wanted to mention, it would be beneficial before we go to breakouts if you click on all three of those links so that on your screen you have the Padlet and then both of those documents available for you to reference.
So can everyone see my screen with the approved programs of study? Okay, good. So lucky agriculture comes first. So what these are is allowable programs of study and recommended programs of study. So here are the course codes and the title of the courses with them. So in this category, what we have is the intro courses. In this category, we have the concentrator courses. And then in this category, we have our completer courses, which is also known as our capstone. In order to complete the program, the students have to have a capstone, and that could include a dual credit, on the job training, or this course called agricultural entrepreneurship. So you can scroll through it. There's some other programs of study in here as well. So you can scroll down to information technology. And so these are the courses that are available in information technology. And then here are the courses available in manufacturing. So that's the CTE career clusters guide in an Excel file for you. And so the second document has the course codes in there. So if I wanted to see what 0131 looks like, I can go to 0131 and I'll find it here. And it'll give an explanation as to what is taught in those courses. And so it gives you an understanding of, does this line with the pathway that we want students to go through? And it also gives industry an idea of what is being taught in those courses too as well. Was I sharing my screen or not? I'm so sorry. I just realized that. Oh my God, I just realized that. Okay, so here's my screen. Here's the course codes. If you press Control Find, you can look up a specific course code that's in there, and it'll give us an explanation, a little description as to what is being taught in those courses. And so that helps us identify which programs of study we really can teach in our schools. All right, so you have about 30 minutes in your breakout sessions. If I see that there's, people are wrapping some stuff up, we'll gauge it like that too, but you have 30 minutes to work in your breakout sessions, talk with your partners and your group about what programs of study are really going to benefit the schools as well as industry in the surrounding area. So is Is there any question or any clarifying information that you need before you go into your breakout sessions? And I'm looking around, I'm looking in everybody's eyes. For
It is.
confusion, is that?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce, it's very beneficial as you guys are having these conversations. If you will, please record those ideas on the Padlet, just so that we're able to see and have that data that's really capturing what you guys are talking about.
Okay, and so Jackie, if you could go ahead and start sending everybody to their breakout rooms, and I'll be jumping in and out too, and I'm sure you'll have somebody from CCRB in with you too as well. So if you have any questions.
Okay, I am opening the rooms now.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, it's to see you all.
Jackie, are you in here with me?
Yes.
I don't, not knowing how I mean, not having experience with this.
Hi, Jackie, are we all back?
Yes, everyone is back in the main session.
Okay, good. As I was hopping around, I was really excited about the conversations that were taking place in the breakout rooms. Thank you, CCRB, for helping me out in there too as well. Melissa, did you notice any common themes around the information that was submitted on the Padlet?
In looking through the Padlet information, which I know you have up right now, first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for capturing those conversations and providing your input there. I think there are two main conversations, well, kind of three main conversations going on. We have conversations focused on healthcare. We have conversations focused on agriculture, and then others. There's a lot of information about kind of an IT program and what that would look like and what we would need for that. And so I'm interested in if anybody from any of the groups would like to share part of their conversation. And let's start with the agriculture idea, if that's okay. Did anybody want to share any ideas that were discussed related to the priority area in agriculture? I know I had a great conversation with the ladies from Clovis Community College regarding that. Not to put you guys on the spot or anything.
Well, I'll point out something, and I asked Breezy this. I said, you know, I noticed ag was one of our top priority areas, but then she showed on her screen that nobody was actually taking those classes or those courses. So then I was like, so do we need to switch that to something else? But then I thought about it a little bit too, and I don't know if that's the answer, because Robin, didn't you mention something about this whole new ag science, plant science, ag econ, something that you guys are starting to do?
Yeah, so that's part of the work that we're doing this year with Perkins is, building up some ag components within the schools, and then the pathway portion of it. CCC is building an ag business degree that will be a dual credit option for students. And so that has, I think, and Melissa, do you want me to kind of share my view on the ag piece of
Yes,
it? And then we can
please.
okay. So I think to Christine's point, that there wasn't really anybody in it. I think one of the things that we discovered as we were working on building the ag is that we're all kind of all over the place. All of the schools are. And there's a group, there's ag kind of falls in a couple of different areas where you have like the true ag side of it. And then you have the ag mechanics, which a lot of it includes the welding component. And so I think there is a misconception within the schools of what ag really is and what it means and what the options are. And so I think all of the schools are doing something a little bit different. And so I personally think that we should still focus on ag, because I think we've started some preliminary work and we are, I think, are going to be able to get a little bit stronger pathways moving forward, especially if we focus on that ag business side of it, where we can say, the schools we have welding. So if they're doing the ag mechanics, we have that welding option for them, but then also have more of that ag business approach where they can do the true ag side of it and then have dual credit options to meet all three of the areas. And the two classes that we're adding are the ag leadership and communication, which is a concentrator on that first. I don't know, Melissa, I can't remember.
So if you're looking at the approved CTE programs of study, right on the first one that pulls up, you'll see the ag, food, and natural resources. And the program name is Agribusiness Systems.
Right. And so the concentrator classes are the ag leadership and communication and ag econ. And those are the two classes that we're adding right now. And so that kind of answers that pathway question for schools. So that's kind of what I would like to see happen if it works for the schools.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Robin, for adding that. Any other conversations on ag that anybody would like to add to the whole group discussion?
Well, I think I'd like to add in that there is a difference, and I think it's depending on the training of your instructors, and sometimes you have to go with what's available. But as we're discussing in our group, there's enrollment in both welding, manufacturing, welding, and then ag welding. So I think the challenge here, and I don't know how that would be fixed, but the challenge here is because of the rural nature of your communities and the shortages of teachers to teach these courses, that kind of limits the options.
Mm-hmm.
So professional development was suggested. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so looking at the Padlet, ag was a big theme in there. And then you also can see, like, under the second part, which CTE programs of study would best provide pathways for students. There's a lot of conversation about that IT side. And so I would be interested to hear some of the ideas regarding having an IT program of study and options for what that would look like in our schools. Is anybody willing to share part of their conversations around that?
I think what I did here when I went into one of the breakout sessions was that IT is an important aspect of the career workforce. You know, there's a real big push for IT. And I think part of the logistics of working out programs of study is making sure that we have the personnel and the staff to be able to offer those courses. They're certified to teach those courses. So I think that was some of the conversation that I did here in the breakout sessions.
Thank you, Breezy. Anybody else want to add to Breezy's comments, or does that kind of cover?
Can I add a thought to that.
Absolutely.
So, and I shared this in the group. I think, Clovis High School has, because they're bigger, they have a stronger IT component for students, but like the rural schools, it's just dependent upon whether or not they have an instructor who has, an IT background. But I think it's easy to say that digital literacy is huge for us moving forward. I mean, like we should have some level of digital literacy for students across the board. And I'm just wondering if, maybe if we're looking at IT as a component, is there a way that we can teacher share? That we can set up some kind of system that allows us to, one of the things that we did is we've worked to try to put Zoom rooms in several of the schools. And if we can, some of the schools in this region don't have them, maybe they didn't want them, but maybe we could continue to look at adding a Zoom setup for them. And if we had a teacher who was credentialed on the IT side, then they might be able to pipe that out to every single rural school. And it's not necessarily a drain resource-wise on each school to do that. And I'm just throwing out an idea because I know the challenge that the rural schools have. But my problem is, yeah, we do have that issue in the rural schools, but it creates an equity gap for students because now they no longer have that digital literacy option, and that's huge for today. So just a thought that I'm throwing out there.
I think that's an excellent idea, Robin. And I think too, especially with the programming piece with that, like you have to get certified in that programming. That teacher has to take some special classes. But I know that there's, just random teachers around the state that have that certification. But like you said, those rural schools, they're so thin. So, and there's a certain subset of kids that are very interested in the programming piece. And like, we're not servicing them like we need to because we don't have a certified person that knows how to program. I mean, I can teach you computers all day, but I don't know how to program, or not anymore. So I think those Zoom rooms are something that we could share teachers is like an excellent idea. I think we need to jump all over that.
Sherry, can you document that in the notes, please? About, coming up with some sort of like an additional, we're already like a pooled budget consortium, but an additional consortium of schools that kind of come to an agreement that like maybe Portales has a teacher that can teach those courses, and the students in the region can, take that course with them. Is that what you're talking about, Robin? Something in that?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And I
even,
honestly, and I see it as I mean, if we really want to go that big, what my vision of that is, and I don't know if we do it through like REC somehow and be able to do some kind of consortia where, maybe we're sharing AP teachers, maybe we're sharing, because STEM is huge. So maybe on the IT side. So honestly, that's kind of my big vision for it. But if we can start somewhere, and maybe IT is the way to start it, that again, it creates such an equity gap in these rural schools because students just don't have that opportunity, and schools don't have the resources. So they're doing the best that they can. So let's figure out how we can bring the resources to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that might be another opportunity as well to engage our business industry community or even retired people. Because I do know that I have a school up in Mountain Air, and she had a couple kiddos that were very interested in programming. And I don't know how she got it out in that small community, but found some retired person from Los Alamos National Labs that said, I'll come in and teach Java to these kids. And he was just partnering and coming in the classroom as a guest speaker. And it was beautiful. The kid got really excited and really into the programming piece. So we may have some people out there that are willing just to kind of come into the classroom, and you have the certified teacher in there, and then just bring a guest in to help those kiddos get going on some of that IT stuff.
And I just want to add too, on to that. Yeah, there are plenty of industry that are more than willing to kind of come alongside a teacher and sort of help them get their classroom sort of in order. But there are a lot of resources that are free through, code.org offers a lot of professional development. If a teacher would really like to kind of skill up in that area, we work closely with the Computer Science Alliance that offers a lot of different strands in the summer for various aspects, computer science, cyber, but a lot of these things are also free. And so, I mean, it's because of this field, it changes every day. And so you may have a teacher that might be reluctant because they did it 3 years ago. So they have the baseline. They just need some upskilling. And I think that that's an easy fix, and that might get them kind of interested, so.
I was just wondering, I noticed if there's administrators on, like Mr. Ontiveros or Mr. Stacy, what are y'all's thoughts about organizing something like this, since y'all are in the schools and are organizing things?
Well, and one of the things that I wanted to make sure is, in the past, the roadblock that we've always been set up with is timing, where one of the post-secondary schools says, okay, hey, we've got this program that we're going to do, but we've already submitted our schedules, we've already submitted our calendar, we've already submitted, and we can't go back. And so in April and May, we have to get all of our stuff processed. And usually the post-secondary schools are doing theirs in the summer and then coming out with and it's like, okay, we're so far behind now that we can't even initiate it or get it started. You guys have talked about in Melrose, all the small rural schools, we don't have the personnel. We utilize our RECs, but then if the REC comes into Melrose, say on Tuesday afternoon to do this process, then what do I do with my kids on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at those time slots? Because now I've got to fill in and figure something else out. So not to say that it can't be done, but there's just a lot of nuances to it, and the timing and the processes are critical. I think Jamie said it, to have somebody come in, and IT now is a new thing. And so to get the personnel that we need in place is going to take us a couple years to do. The ag piece, the welding piece, we just started that. And so it's taking us a couple years to get that to fruition at the end of what we agreed to do, which was years down the road. And it's working fantastic. But it takes us time to get the process going, and then to keep it going is just a hurdle. So anyway, I don't want to sound negative on any of this. It's just there's specific nuances that Clovis has been a great partner to the small rural school districts here with this welding programs. I think IT would be fantastic, but we're going to have to piggyback in with somebody else. So if we do a Zoom, or we have a teacher like Robin said that does it, it can't be time stamped. I can't do it every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock because I'm already going to have my schedule built in. And so,
sorry, Brian, what I was going to say, it'll probably be, the logistics will take some time to figure out, because we would have to start having those conversations of, do we need to align bell schedules? You know what I mean? Because everyone has a little bit different bell schedules. So I wouldn't see it so much as a, on RECs coming in on Tuesday for Melrose and goes to Texaco on Monday. I would see it as, this class period is IT. And this is, so it's the same one. And maybe that person bounces around from school to school and is actually live once a week at each of the schools, but yet they're televised out to the rest of the schools. But it's still the same time, because I do know that timing that you guys run into. And I think you're right, you do have to have everything scheduled. We have to have everything scheduled too. We have a little more flexibility where we can add stuff afterwards. But it might be just more of a communication piece, but it takes time. And I think that's the important piece, is we would have to just figure out how we how we could pull everybody's, because it'd be a change in mindset, honestly, if we were able to do something like that.
Thank you. I mean, we're having a great conversation here. We can discuss it further, like Robin said. I think it's going to have to be some additional meetings that we meet with to address that. And so I just want to take care of your time too. And there's a few more slides that I got to get through, and then one more collective goal that we have to make as a group as to where to go forward from here. So the grant management system, I just want, if you hadn't seen this yet, and for those of you that have seen it, just know that this is the system where we're going to put all this information in, what program of study we're going to implement, the budget line items, what we're going to buy with this, how we're going to carry out these programs. If you don't have your username and ID for this yet, make sure you get with me and we'll get you set up so that you can access this. Narrative, your program of study, all of that information is going to go in here for the next application cycle. The requirements, so the application has to be completed every year in the grant management system. It has to have these programs of study that we talked about, the course codes, specifically to what we're going to teach in the schools, and an itemized budget as to what we're going to purchase with the funding. It opens in March. And so we want to get these conversations and maybe another meeting or two in order to set what our goal is going to be for the next application. Advisory meetings, just a reminder that a minimum of 2 must be conducted throughout the year with a variety of stakeholders. Start recruiting those parents, start recruiting those students, start recruiting those additional business industry partners. And just a reminder too, your BAR submission and request for reimbursements are ongoing. Make sure your RFRs are done before June 30th of every year. I really want to focus on the annual performance report. It will be required annually for the previous year, what you used your money for. In the consortium, if we're a pooled budget, Clovis Community College will fill out one online, and then the rest of the schools will fill out an additional Word document as to, what Clovis Community College did with them, for them, what they got as a result of the process. But I just want you to keep in mind that if you get separate next gen funding, you will also have to submit the annual performance report in the grant management system. Okay. And then the CLNA, every 2 years, it's required with stakeholders. So this is the next step, a collective goal for program improvement that we really need to determine as to what we're going to focus on. So what indicator, the target, so we have credentials. Our target percentage is 21%, dual credit 18.2%, and this is for 2023. So work-based learning 16%. When I pulled the CAR report for Region I, we're seeing that 6.1% of the students are receiving credentials. 29.6% are enrolled in completing dual credit, which is above the target indicator. And then we have work-based learning, which is 3.9%. So today, before we leave, I just want just a vote on what we really can focus on as our next collaborative effort to what we're going to improve on. Are we going to improve on getting credentials for the students? Are we going to increase dual credit, the dual credit percentage? Are we going to increase work-based learning? So on your screen, if you would go to the top where it says annotate, and if you could click on annotate, you can see that there's a stamp there. Thinking about your capacity, what could you improve on? Later on, it can be a collaborative effort, but right now, what you can improve on in your schools or in your institution to assisting with this process, what is your capacity as to what you can improve on? Can, if you know that you can get more students to get credentials, put a check mark next to that. If you know that you can enroll more students in dual credit or offer more dual and credit, courses, click on that one. Or if you know that we can start a work-based learning program, put a check mark on there.
Breezy, are you talking about credential like certifications in that certain area? Okay.
Yes, yes. And so the credentials have to focus on the priority areas. So whatever priority areas that we choose, well, that we have ag, information technology, and manufacturing. If we can get more students certified in those areas, because those are the only ones that we're going to look at that are going to count.
Breezy, I'm not
Yes.
seeing that annotate button. Is
Oh,
it, you said way at the
You have
top?
to, yeah, and where it says view options, Diane, click the drop down arrow.
Oh, I see it. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Christine. Beating me to the punch.
Hey, Breezy, I'm not going to check any of these because where we're located at, either I'm riding on somebody else's coattails or because from what we do here, there's nothing that I can do just because of our population and our location.
What about what you would like to do? Because we can assist you with that. Like this will drive the conversations and the future meetings that we're going to have to assist you in what you need.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do is a work-based learning, but I
Okay.
can't do that here.
Well, that's one of the things that we can really talk to industry about, have, focus groups on how can we help them? Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So Sherry and Melissa, can you document the results from the annotations for me, please?
Breezy, can I ask a quick question about the application while everyone's finishing that up?
Yes.
When we did this originally, CCC was able to do that application for all of the schools to kind of, I know they have limited resources a lot of times for that piece of it. Is that still the case? And we can work with them, but we load the application, or are they going to have, is that changed?
Yes, you will do the pooled budget application. But if they're accepting their next gen funding, they will have to submit an application
Okay,
too
I
as
just
well.
wanted to make sure we clarified for everybody. Thank you.
Yes, yes. All right, so let me stop that. Okay. All right, so resources and links, I'll send you out this PowerPoint too as well. You can have all of these resources and links. Career clusters guide, the documents that we use today. Padlets for breakouts so you can look at them. I also put an ACT high quality CTE tools site. This will help us and you evaluate your programs as to whether they're high quality CTE or they have recommendations as to how to make our programs of study high quality. I just wanted also, I talked about this a little bit in our breakout because somebody brought it up, but adding a program of study request, if we want to add something new like health or education, I know those two were brought up. There is a form that needs to be filled out by the school or the consortium to determine if we're going to bring in a new priority. And it has to go through a little bit of process to determine if it does meet the industry needs within the area. And so I just want to reiterate that if you're looking for some high quality career exploration tools, we have a careers to communities, pathways to career math curriculum that has career exploration tools in it. We're in the process, it's a free math curriculum for all schools. We are in the process of getting it adopted as a high quality instructional material. It's going through a review process right now. It's adopted on the list as a supplemental material, but we want to make it, we want to get it on the core materials list. That doesn't really matter when it comes to buying it because again, it's free for all schools in New Mexico. And so if you have any questions about this or you're interested in it, you can contact me and we can get you some information about the math curriculum that we do have. I want to save the date for an Edgar training. March 8th is the date for that. It's a 4-hour session that will cover the Perkins guidelines as well as basic federal grant management, what you can buy, what you can't buy, industry management, inventory management, how to manage that stuff. So if you're interested in it, we have a link that you can register with, and I will send that out too as well. Melissa, what she's going to do is she's going to put an exit survey in the chat for me. If you could fill that, if you could click on that and fill it out for us, that would be great as to how we did today and what additional things and support that you're going to need from this point forward. I greatly appreciate everybody that showed up today. I was nervous at first and I was like, oh my gosh, but why am I nervous? I know all these people, but you know, it's a little bit, you know, it was a little bit nerve wracking, but I got through it and I am here to help you. I know I will be handing over the region to Melissa, but I am still going to be involved because I really want to see this region go through to developing and implementing these high programs of study, and I'll do whatever I can to assist you with in that process. So thank you again for joining. Thank you for giving us your feedback and information, and I will see you soon and later from this point on. If anybody has any additional comments, questions, anything, you know, feel free to stick around a little bit after. I don't want to go into your lunch or anything like that. But again, I really appreciate you and your support and your participation.
Thank you, Breezy. I'll be in touch.
Thank you, Dr. Kemp.